Just like everyone else, I have way too many unfinished series clogging up my TBR. While I have lots of favourite authors and favourite series, I can admit that I personally, as a character flaw, am way too much of a shiny new things people. I get really excited to start a new series or even to continue it into the second or maybe even third book. But as we go through the series, I tend to lose a bit of steam. If I'm reading them back to back, I either end up losing interest and setting them aside, promising myself that I'll get to it at some point. Or even if I'm keeping up and I just don't happen to get to the new release when it comes out, I find that I forget to go back and check as new releases are coming out where I should be to be keeping up with the series. To solve this, I came up with my series jar, and my intention was that during my TBR Tailspin games every month, when I landed on a yellow circle, which was the continue a series prompt, I would just pull one from the TBR jar, and random chance and fate would help me pick up on those series I forgot about personally. However, what's ended up happening with that is completely, it's fine. But when I've landed on that prompt, I've already had a book in mind that continues a series, so still working on that goal. But I haven't actually been using the cup, I've just been picking myself. That's not been a problem, but it does mean that the series that are in my series jar are not really being whittled down. So in today's video, we're going to change that. First of all, we're going to talk about all the series that I have one more, and I'll be either finished the series or completely caught up. And then we're going to talk about the series where I have more than one book. Some of these it's just two, some of them it's significantly more than that. We're going to talk about where I am with them, maybe why I let them slide. And then at the end of the video, I have a favour to ask. I'm going to pull 4 or 5 of my more than one book series out of the jar, and I'd really like you to vote in the comments as to which one you would like to see me continue. Then next month or the next month when I get around to it, I'm going to have a vlog that is just me completely finishing that series. We're going to start off with the series where I only need to read one book and I'll either be caught up with what's currently released or I'll be completely finished. And I'm doing actually much better here than I thought it would be. I only have 11 series on this list, which actually is nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be, but it is a slight concern because it means that I have more books in bigger series. It's fine. But these ones I really just need to knuckle down and read the one book and I can knock it off this. So we're going to go in no particular order. The first is the Golden Girls mystery series. The next book I have to read is book number 2, A Death on the Lanai. This is a really recent release, so I actually don't feel bad about not having read it yet. But the first book was a 5-star read for me. I love the Golden Girls TV show. Rachel Ekstrom Courage did a fantastic job of getting the characters' voices perfectly lined up with the way the actresses sound, the way they speak, and having the plot feel just as wacky and chaotic as the TV show. So it was a 5-star book. I really need to read the second book in the series and support it. Then technically I have book 1 in the Sun King and His Knight series. Although this is book 1 in Briar Nairn's new series, I have actually read the prequel through NetGalley and I really enjoyed it. It set up a really interesting and unique type of fantasy world. I'm really invested in continuing and seeing where the main body of the plot is going to go. A Choir of Lies by Alexandra Rowland is the second book in her Tales of the Chance duology that started with A Conspiracy of Truths. It's a duology. I literally just need to read the one book. But while I really enjoyed A Conspiracy of Truths, it was a very slow-paced book. That's sort of the point of it, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but it just means that I know I'm gonna have to work at chipping away through this next one, and I really want to be in the right mood for that. It's not something to read in a month where I'm trying to check off prompts and boxes. It's really not a book that I would want to pick up when I'm trying to clear my TBR, but I need to read it to clear my TBR, so I think I just need to invest in this one and pick a week where I can just sink into maybe one book and focus on it. Then I have She Knows All the Names, the second book in the Throne of Katara series by Michelle Habez Corpora. This one started with His Face is the Sun, I read this one as a buddy read. I read the first book as a buddy read and I loved it so much more than I was expecting to. Not that I wasn't expecting to enjoy it, but it blew me away. It's a YA novel, multi-POV, set in ancient Egypt with lots of supernatural and political manoeuvring. As soon as I finished the first book, I said I would wait and get to the second one, maybe next year. But then I got the second one on NetGalley and I want to read it now. So this is another one that I actually haven't had that long, but it's one I do really want to get to, and one that I don't want to end up racking up time on that TBR clock. Most of my cozy mystery series I am either up to date on, or I have dozens of books in the series still to go. They tend to be very long running series. But the Farm to Table series by Amanda Flower, who is one of my favourite mystery authors, only has 5 books in it, and I've read 4. So I only need to read Natural Barn Killer to be completely caught up. We are following Shiloh Bellamy. She has come back from her big city job to the family farm and she's trying to turn it into something sustainable and organic, while dealing with her cantankerous dad, her adorable city-loving pug, and a cousin who would rather she sold the farm and helped fund her theatre business. The books in the SOS Hotel series by Ariana Nash, or Adam Vex, are short and really pacey, really fun. We are following, not surprisingly, the SOS Hotel, a hotel that has been set up as a refuge for demons and supernatural creatures. It's run by Adam Vex, the author himself, a human with some big secrets of his own. Over the course of the series, he builds up relationships both with an incubus and a vampire. There's some great Grumpy Sunshine dynamics going on all over the place. They have really fun adventures in each book. The series originally ended on book 7, Your Final Resting Place, and then Nash put out another 3 books. I've read 2 of those, so in this 10 book series I have 1 more to read and I can tick it off. And I think maybe that's why I stopped. It had already come to a conclusion and I'd been so sad to leave that world. Getting those extra 3 books was so exciting. And now I'm like, when this is it. And I could probably knock this one, End of the Road, out really quickly. I just need to push myself to do it. Next we have The Fence duology by Sarah Rees Brennan. These are spin-offs or companion novelizations from the Fence graphic novel series by C.S. Pacat. I went on a bit of a binge of the graphic novel series 2 amazing readathons ago, I think. Over the face-off weekend, I read loads of issues of the comic book and I had a really fun time. It's a little bit like a YA heated rivalry but with fencing. And the books are giving some of the background characters a chance to take centre stage and just give us a little more insight into their worlds. I really enjoyed the first one, Striking Distance, and I still need to read the second one, Disarmed. The Dorothy Gentleman series by Olivia Waite is a cozy mystery meets sci-fi with elderly protagonist in a world where consciousnesses are able to be transferred into bodies aboard ship. I enjoyed the first one, Murder by Memory, but I felt like because they are very short novels, not quite novellas, but very short novels, that it didn't fully manage to introduce me to all the characters, sell a compelling mystery, and immerse me in the world building of the sci-fi world, especially as a non-sci-fi reader. I hope though that as the series goes on, now that I am more aware of the world building and how our universe works, I'll be able to really enjoy the mysteries, and it gives me a nice in to building up my sci-fi ability. The book that I'm putting on this list is book 2, Nobody's Baby, and I need, or I want to read it fairly soon because the 3rd book has already been announced. It's not out to 2027, so if I read Nobody's Baby this year, then technically it's still a 1 book to tick off series and it doesn't go onto the bigger pile. Moonfall by Sarah A. Parker has just had its 2nd book come out a couple of months ago. The 1st book was When the Moon Hatched, and book 2 is The Ballad of Falling Dragons. I wasn't expecting to enjoy this romantasy as much as I did. This is a world with dragon riders and political intrigue and a protagonist who is really guarded and has touch of amnesia. Without giving too much away, there's a lot happening in that book and I wasn't expecting it to be my thing, but I was just hooked and caught and dragged along for the ride, and I ended up really plowing through it quickly and having a great time. Speaking of romanticies that I didn't expect to love as much as I did, the Arcana Academy series by Elise Kova. This is another really new release, but I'm putting it in here to remind me to get to it because I have had the ARC on my NetGalley shelf for quite a while, so technically for me it's been out a few months and I really do need to get on that. This was a fake dating, enemies to lovers, tarot card magic inspired system, school setting with lots of political intrigue in the background. It was a wild ride. I had a great time with the first book, Arcana Academy, and I would really like to get to Prince of Swords. And then finally we have the Nico D'Angelo Adventures by Rick Riordan. This one started with The Sun and the Star and it continues on to The Court of the Dead. These are spin-off novels from the Percy Jackson universe. Nico is one of my favourite characters. I love my little sad goth child and I really enjoyed seeing him get his own books. So I would like to catch up on these before I start the new Percy trilogy. Moving on to series I have to read more than 2 books to finish or catch up on, and I have 26 books here, so I'm gonna have to whistle through them a little bit faster. I'll probably try and tell you Wait I Am. I'll probably tell you the name of the series, the first book, Wait I Am, and maybe just a line about what they are or a rough idea. Game Changers by Rachel Reed. This is queer hockey romance that has been everywhere lately. I have read the first 3 books, Game Changers, Heated Rivalry and Tough Guy, so I still have 3 more that are currently out and the final book which will be releasing very soon. The Cleopatra Fox Mystery Series by CJ Archer. These are historical, I think they're Victorian, but I could be wrong, where the protagonist has come to live in her wealthy family's hotel and is investigating crimes. I've currently read the first 2 books, Murder at the Mayfair Hotel and Murder at the Piccadilly Playhouse, in this 12-book series. The Amish Quilt Shop Mysteries by Isabella Allen. This is a cozy mystery series with a protagonist who has left her big city job to take over her recently deceased aunt's Amish quilt shop. Isabel Allen is a pseudonym for Amanda Flower, one of my all-time favourite cozy mystery authors, and I have actually read this series in its entirety many years ago, but I don't remember a single thing about it and I wanted to reread it. I've read the prequel, which I hadn't actually originally picked up, and the first book, Murder Plain and Simple. That means I have 4 more to read, and the second is Murder Simply Stitched. Another cozy mystery series I need to continue on with is the Deputy Donut series by Ginger Bolton. The first book is Survival of the Fritters. This is about a woman who used to be a first response call handler and is now running a donut shop. There are currently 10 books in the series. I still need to read book 9, Blame It on the Beignets, and book 10. The Ash Princess trilogy by Laura Sebastian is another reread. I reread Ash Princess maybe last year during Realmathon, and I would like to just finish up the series. I remember being really pleasantly surprised by the first book was our standard kind of YA princess trope, but the second book became far more political and it dealt with the choices around arranged marriages and alliances, and that one really sung for me and I want to see if it's the same. So I have 2 more books to read in the trilogy, and the second one is Lady Smoke. Back in 2018, I ran a read-along on Twitter for the October Day series by Shauna Maguire. These are urban fantasy paranormal investigators with a protagonist who is half fae. At the time there were 12 books out and we did 1 a month, finishing up with book 13. It was called the A Day a Month read-along and I was so proud of that. Since then, I have not continued the series, despite almost every time a new book comes out me saying to myself that I need to continue the series. This is one where there's just so many characters and so much world building and so much backstory that I'm a little bit frightened to get back into it, because I know it's going to take me probably a good book to re-immerse myself in that world. I kind of feel like I almost want to do it in batches so I'm not having to relearn everything every time. But if I kept up with releases I might not have to relearn everything, so maybe I just need to get on it. That being said, there currently are 20 books in the series, and the one that I need to pick up next is book 14, A Killing Frost. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman is the series that everyone and their mum is reading right now. It combines lit RPG with a video game type aspect with science fiction and dystopian. We are in a world where an alien race has reclaimed planet Earth. They have destroyed everything on the surface, and the survivors have been allowed to go underground into a kind of impossible dimension where we have a dungeon divided into levels. Each character or each player is allowed to progress down through the levels if they can survive. I finished book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, earlier this year, which means I still have books 7 and 8 to get to. 7 is That Inevitable Ruin. Book 8, A Parade of Horribles, has just come out. I really love the sound of A Parade of Horribles. I really am so keen to read that one. Not that I don't think That Inevitable Ruin will be good, but I kind of just want to get to the wacky races. Another historical mystery series, but slightly less cozy and a little more romantic, is the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Rayborn. This is a Victorian era murder mystery, I know this one, and we are following a naturalist, specifically a lepidopterist, as she gets involved in, so far, some pretty kind of high level political hijinks. I've read the first 2 books, A Curious Beginning and A Perilous Undertaking, which puts me on book 3 of 10, A Treacherous Curse. Another historical mystery series, I'm noticing a trend here, is the Amelia Peabody series by Elizabeth Peters. This is following by now a family of Egyptologists on their adventures in, again, the Victorian era. Amelia is not a likeable character. I don't know if the author thinks she's likeable and reasonable, but she's so haughty and so arrogant, but I love reading about her. The first book is The Crocodile on the Sandbank, and currently I am about halfway through, and it's kind of created a dilemma that the next book I need to read is either book 11 or book 16. At this point, the reading order, it's up to you whether you want to go chronological in the series or publication. I think since the series has been done for so long, I would like to just go chronologically and follow the characters, which would mean that my next book is actually Guardian of the Horizon. Then we have the A Stitch in Time quartet by Kelly Armstrong. These are time travel Victorian romances. I've read book 1 and 2, A Stitch in Time and A Twist of Fate, which means I still have 3 and 4 to read, along with, if I want to, some novellas. But we're not going to count those for now. Book 3 would have pirate theme, which I love pirates as a thing, but I tend not to have a great time with pirate books, and I think that's maybe what's put me off picking up A Turn of the Tide. Some more historical cozy mysteries, but this time they are middle grade. We are following Aggie Morton, who is sort of like a 12-year-old Agatha Christie, and her best buddy slash sleuthing partner, Hector Perot. I really enjoyed the first book. The Torquay setting was really immersive. I really enjoyed it, and I'd really like to continue. The first book was The Body Under the Piano, and I have 3 more books to read to finish the quartet. The second one is Peril at Owl Park. The reason I've been putting this one off is because it is a kind of Christmas themed story, and I don't know, I thought maybe it might be a good one to keep for December. I read the first Matthew Shardlake book by CJ Sansom just before the Shardlake TV series came out on Disney+, and I kind of binge read the next 5 books in the series, despite the fact that they do get really chunky. Somehow I just sort of petered out on Heartstone, which gives me 2 books still to read, the next of which would be book 6, Lamentation. These are more historical mysteries, but these are darker and they feel very much more historical than mystery. We are following Matthew Shardlake. He is a lawyer. He works for Cromwell, and he somehow manages to find himself involved in some very high level political intrigues throughout the series. I was really disappointed when I heard they weren't going to be continuing with the adaptation, so I would like to wrap this series up sort of and just get some closure on it. You might be wondering if I have anything other than cozy mystery series on this TBR, and I promise I do, but the next series we're going to talk about is Threadville by Janet Bowen. This is set in a small town that's almost entire economy seems to be based on embroidery shops, quilting shops, yarn shops, and we have a protagonist who has recently moved and is setting up her own embroidery store. This is a fully completed series. I have read book 1, Dire Threads. I have 4 more books to read to finish, and the second book in the series is Threaded for Trouble. The Underland Chronicles by Suzanne Collins are her pre-Hunger Games work, and actually middle grade. We follow Gregor, who falls down a chute in the laundry when he's chasing after his baby sister and ends up in the underworld, which is a little bit like a New York, slightly more gothic Alice in Wonderland. The first book was Gregor the Overlander, and I still need to read the next 4 books, starting with book 2, Gregor and the Prophecy of Bane. The Disney Twisted Tales series is a little bit different from the rest, as each book is a standalone. Many of the books are from different authors, and essentially each book takes one of the Disney movies and places sort of what if onto the plot. There are currently 28 books in this series, of which I have read 3. So I do need to get cracking. I've been reading the ones that either interested me because I liked the Disney movie, interested me because of the twist in the plot, or ones where it fitted some kind of other readathon challenge. So I don't have a specific book I would need to read next. But I have read As Old as Time, which was Beauty and the Beast, Unbirthday, which was Alice in Wonderland, and Go the Distance, which was Hercules, but I don't particularly know which one of the 24 books I would want to pick up next, but it might be smart just to go in order and start with Reflection, which is a Mulan retelling by Elizabeth Lim. Another series which I am rereading, I read it 20 plus years ago, is The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. I've been saying that I was going to reread all 15 books since season 2 of the TV series came out, and I haven't done great. I thought I could read maybe 1 a month, and I have not. In 3 years, I think I've read 5 books. I'm Not the Devil was the last one I read, and that puts me on book 6, The Vampire Armand. Vampire Armand is a lot of people's favourite in the series, and for me too. I think it's definitely up there. I said a little bit earlier that I didn't really like pirate books, but one series I have been really impressed by is the Raised by Wolves series by Emmy Hoffman. These are historical, obviously, and it does have a queer romance, but I wouldn't even say that that's the main plot of the story. These are just really immersive, almost philosophical takes on piracy. You can tell that Hoffman has done so much research onto the subject, sometimes admittedly on things that maybe we don't need as much detail in. The first book was Brethren. I need to read book 3, which is Treasure. These are chunky books and quite slow going at times, although you come out really, or I came out of them just in love with the story, but I know that they are kind of work to get through, and I think that's maybe what's put me off picking up the next book. There are quite a lot of middle grade series on this, I'm noticing, and I think that's because I don't read middle grade a lot, so when I start a series it takes me a very long time to work my way through it. But the next book we have is A Royal Guide to Monster Hunting by Kelly Armstrong again. I have one of her adult romances, the time travel one, A Stitch in Time. We talked about that earlier. This is a 4-book series. I've read the first one, A Royal Guide to Monster Hunting, and the second one, The Griffin's Lair, so I need to read book 3 and 4, which would mean me starting at The Serpent's Fury. These books follow Rowan, who was meant to be queen, and her brother was going to be the royal monster hunter. They didn't suit those roles, so they switched round, and now that is Rowan's duty. She travels off to defend her people from savage monsters, but also along the way befriends quite a lot of them. The Lays of the Hearth Fire series by Victoria Goddard is a little bit interesting. There are technically only 2 books, but there are lots of novellas and short stories that, to be honest, are long enough that I think they should count as books. I've read book 1, which was The Hands of the Emperor, and I had such a good time with it. We are following Cleophar, who is the position, the hands of the Emperor. He's sort of like a combination of Prime Minister and Personal Secretary. It is a low stakes fantasy. We start with them on holiday, we go back to court, we see Cleophar just like getting through his daily life. There's lots of day-to-day politics and culture clashes going on. It is a very, very slow-paced book. There's really not a huge amount of plot, but we get so much development of Cleophas as a character, the way that he subtly and dutifully every day grinds away at some of the political institutions that are in place and tries to build a more equal society with the help of the emperor. The first book was 1400 pages, and I think book 2, At the Feet of the Sun, is not far off that, and that has definitely been the reason I've been slow to pick it up. Aside from those 2 books, there are also, as I said, all of the short stories and prequels, which put us at about 8 books total for the series. Next we have the North trilogy by Alexandria Warwick. So far there are 3 books, but I think there's maybe a 4th somewhere on the way. I read Below, which was book 1. It is YA, Inuit mythology inspired. We're following a protagonist called Appy, whose sister's face is stolen by the Face Stealer. Appy travels across the frozen wasteland to an icy castle where she has to endure all sorts of trials and tribulations to try and win the face back. The first book was North. I need to read books 2 and 3, which means I'd be starting with Night. The Asterian series by Melissa Scott and Lisa A. Barnett are fantasy of manners meets mysteries, where we have a pointsman, which is kind of like a detective in this world, and a retired soldier teaming up to investigate various kind of intrigues within the city. There's a queer romance here, and of the 6-book series, I've read the first one, Point of Hopes, and the second one, Point of Knives. That means that my next book would be book 3, Point of Dreams. The Which Way Librarian series is another contemporary cozy mystery. This one is following Josie, who has moved to a small town to be their librarian. It just so happens she also has witchy powers, and she's able to listen to the books in the library to get help and hints on what case she's solving. The first book is Bait and Witch, but I'd be continuing from book 6, The Witch is Back. The Vintage Cookbook series by Ellen Byron is another cozy mystery series. This one is set in New Orleans. I loved the setting in this one. It was so immersive. As you kind of get from the title, we have a protagonist who is selling vintage cookbooks from the shop in a kind of estate manor house. I really loved that we had a protagonist here who loved vintage cookbooks, who is selling lots of foodie related items but cannot cook herself, because I really felt that. The first book was The Bayou Book Thief, so I'd be starting at book 2, Wined and Died in New Orleans. Then we have Doctrine of Labyrinths by Sarah Monet. This is a pen name for Catherine Addison, who has wrote my favourite book of all time, The Goblin Emperor. This is an older series that has been re-released, and I have read book 1, Melusine. I think is how we're saying it. I did enjoy the book, but they are very slow. I struggled in a lot of places. The world building is a little bit rough, and I honestly don't know how well I can explain the plot to you. We are following Felix, a wizard, and his half-brother, a former assassin. In the first book, Felix gets kind of framed for a crime and has to go on the run. This is another series where there is so much happening in the novel. There's so much world building. After reading the first one, I was mentally done out. I couldn't pick up the second, but now I'm a little bit concerned that I won't be able to get back into it. There are 4 books in the series, so I think again this is one where I maybe just need to build up momentum, and I would be doing that from book 2, The Virtue. If you've made it this far, you have now heard all of the series that I am currently in progress with. And we've got to the interactive part of the video. I'm going to set up my TBR jar with just the series where I have 2 or more books to read, and I'm going to pull 4 from that jar. Then, if you could vote in the comments for which one you want me to continue with, I'll set up a vlog doing that in the next couple of months. Okay, series 1. Trying to get one. We have the Veronica
the Victoria Speedwell series. Series 2. Dungeon Crawler Carl. 3, oh wait. 3 is Game Changers. 4 is Asteriant, I think we're pronouncing it, series. And then why not, we'll do one more. And go right for the bottom this time. Oh no, too many. We have the Vampire Chronicles.
So I went with 5 picks in the end because I have no chill, and I think I've actually managed to get quite a nice mix. We have some mysteries in there, we have some fantasy, some historical, some romance. I think it's a nice mix. So to quickly go through your choices, we have Game Changers by Rachel Reed. I would be reading book 4, 5 and 6 because 7 isn't currently out. For Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, I'd be reading books 7 and 8. For Asteriant by Melissa Scott and Lisa A. Barnett, I would be reading book 3 through 6. Then for the last 2, I am going to make an addendum here. For Victoria Speedwell by Deanna Rayborn, I will be reading from book 3 onwards. And for the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, I'll be reading from book 6 onwards. For both those series, I have an awful lot of books to get to be caught up, so I'm not going to be reading a crazy amount for the vlog. Let's say that I will read somewhere between 3 and 6 books, depending on how I'm feeling, if you pick one of those series. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Vote for which of the 5 series you would like to see me continue. I will also probably put together a vlog maybe of me clearing some of those 1-book series completely off the TBR, and I hope you'll tune in for both those vlogs when they eventually come out. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in future videos. Goodbye.